Hey, chicas, welcome back to the Lovelda Show, Women of Power podcast. Now let's get this show on the road. Girls, my goodness, has it been a ride and a half? My guests have been incredible. Their stories have been mind-blowing. Whether you are listening on Anchor, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I know, I don't want you Androiders calling me now saying, Lovelda, you know, it's not all about Apple. Well, Apple has taken over a little bit, but I digress. I don't care which platform you're listening on. If you have not yet subscribed to this podcast, you need to hit that subscribe button. Leave us a 5-star review. By us, I mean me and all of my multiple personalities, because all of them want to be accounted for. Today's guest, we're going to step into the world of consulting, a world I wish I knew something about. Like, I really don't. I had a couple of job interviews in this space when I really started out. That's a whole nother story. I think there was a guy who liked me from uni who talks people into interviewing me. Yeah, we're going to get into that story. But I didn't pass. It was nice. I went in. They had me for a moment, but I totally didn't pass it. But this chick, she totally did. She was caning it. So 2 really large firms who work in the consulting space, not both consulting firms, I stand corrected, but they work both in the consulting space, really huge names. And she managed to bag herself leadership positions at not 1, but 2 of these bad boys. So she is somebody we need to hear from today with a completely different perspective on looking at the world. So today's guest is the incredible Yewande Faloyin. Woo, woo, woo. I got that wrong. Faloyin, that's it.
Faloyin. It's great. That was good. Thanks so much, Lovelda. Whoop, whoop. So excited to be on your show.
Oh my gosh, girl. I had to speak to you because, right, I'm going to go a little political, only a little bit, but to me, it's not political. To me, I feel like it's just human to human, right? So there are certain firms and certain, let's just say, sectors in which diversity is an issue, shall we say, right? You know, we have diversity as an issue in general, but there are some sectors in which the diversity gap is huge. You know, construction would be one of those. There just aren't that many women working in positions of power in construction. And I would say consulting would be one of those. Firstly, there aren't that many women. And where there are women, they're not normally from minority backgrounds. The gap is just really huge. So I'm really curious as to, firstly, why did you start down that path in particular that excited you to be in those sorts of environments? And then I kind of want to understand how you found it, because I think a lot of people will relate to feeling like, this place does not have lots of people like me in it. You know, almost that first person that's stepping over the line and going into uncharted territory. And that can be quite challenging in itself. So I really want to kind of get under the skin. So I asked too many questions at once. So maybe we back it up. How did you start? What had you go into consulting?
Yeah, so that's such a really, really great question. And I think it's a little political, but we like being a little bit political anyway. So what's interesting is, although I've kind of done a lot of consulting, my first firm was actually in a financial institution. So to your point, I was doing consulting within that. And way before that, I was in digital. So there definitely weren't like any women, let alone women of color. Like I was literally like 1 woman, 20 men around me. And I'm just going, who are these people? But ultimately, I was really driven by what it was that I loved to do and what I thought I was good at, regardless of whether or not I was a woman or specifically a Black woman. What's actually really interesting is early on in my career, because when I got my first job at Morgan Stanley, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome where I was like, did they hire me just because I'm a Black woman and they wanted to like tick boxes? It troubled me a little. Now I'm like, look, hire me. I'm a Black woman. I don't really care. Tick the boxes. I know I can come through. But I've seen, it's interesting because all these companies have so much more to do. So much more. Like we can talk about how much more they have to do. But I have seen a huge shift in terms of where they've come from and where they've gone to. So digital at Morgan Stanley, literally like 1 woman and definitely 1 Black woman within like 20, surrounded by 20 men. When I then moved into prime brokerage, still at Morgan Stanley, there were then a few more women, not Black women, but a few more women. And it was just because and when I was there, I was like, okay, I love doing the work that I'm doing. I love solving problems, but I don't really care about helping rich people get richer. So why don't I go just do the consulting thing and solve problems? And when I joined McKinsey, they had not a great track record, if I'm being honest, of Black people within the firm. But when I joined, there was a huge push and a huge rally to actually go out and find diverse candidates. So timing-wise, it was great because we started to grow a Black sort of network. Again, still a long way to go, but it felt so different because now I was in a situation where I was like, I'm now surrounded by people who are like me, who are amazing and smart and have diverse backgrounds, and it's exciting to be with them. And we still like, even though I'm not in the firm anymore, we still like message literally like every single day. So it's been quite a journey, and I've seen certainly a lot change within the industries to be more diverse. There's more to do, but I'm excited to see where that goes.
Oh, it's so like heartwarming to hear of the improvements. Like it really is quite heartwarming. And I love that it never put you off. You were just like, and what? I don't care.
I like, it got to a point where I was just like, look, whatever. You want to tick the box? Tick the box. I know that I'm great. And even when I didn't know I was great, sometimes it was also a chance to go, you know what? I will be that person in that position to try to experience it, and then to hopefully get other diverse people in, and to show people that this is not, it's not a case of doing good for the company or doing a good job to make people feel like they're part of it. It's like, no, we're awesome. What is this? Get over yourself.
Do you not know who I am?
Do you not know who we are?
How did you get past the imposter syndrome? So, you know, I think in any situation with diversity, especially when we're talking about women, you know, specifically women of color, but women in general in certain sectors, or anybody who's stepping into a space where it's like, these people have been here for a while, they're the household names, you see it in the speaking industry all the time. The major stage is predominantly men, and then there's one woman who managed to bring on, to take on the stages, right? How did you navigate that space of kind of going, there's a lot about me these people simply cannot understand, because there isn't anybody else here who looks like me, who comes from a similar background from me, who even has my body parts, right? There's so few of them that I'm an anomaly in this, and I'm trying to navigate a world in which they can't understand me. How did you navigate that space?
Yeah, so two things immediately come to mind. One is about the people who are around me who helped me do that, even when I didn't even realize they were doing it. Because as we know, with imposter syndrome is such an interesting thing, because it's like so many people feel it and they experience it, and it's such a weird phenomenon. And with certainly with having people around me who can help me, and I'll tell you a story in a second. And then the other piece was a lot of the work that I've done on myself to really understand where that comes from, what contributes to it, and then basically just dispel this thing that's not real. But the story I was going to tell you was when I first joined McKinsey. As I said, there was a lot of work being done to sort of not just increase the number of diverse people in the firm, but also, you know, take them up the ranks and then make sure that we're a community. And we had a conference for the North American and European Black Network, and it was awesome. We went out to Atlanta. I think that one was in Atlanta or Chicago. I can't remember, but it was great. And there was this guy there who was the ombudsman, and he had like all these new joinees come in, and we all sat like in a circle. And the first thing he said, he was like, everyone turn around and look at your seats. And we're like, like, what? He's like, no, do it. And so we all like kind of go like that. We're going, what the hell? He's like, you see that seat? It is there for you. You are meant to be sitting in that seat, and there is no reason why anyone else should be there. If you don't believe it, the amount of money and the amount of time that was spent to find you to come and work in this firm, trust me, you're meant to be there. And worst case, if you're not, then it's not your fault. It's the firm's fault, and they made a mistake. You did not. And stuff like that just started to change my mindset, which is like, yeah, like, why am I doubting myself? Like, a company like McKinsey has gone, we want you here. What more can I do? I love
It's
him.
such
He's
a
awesome.
beautiful switch, right? Because most of the time we're almost sitting in the position of continuously feeling the need to prove the thing that everybody else already knows is okay. It's like doing that extra and going that much further and over giving and over working extra long hours and stuff. And it's like, but you're here. What more do you need to prove? Like you've already done it. You know, the hard work's done. They've spent all this time to find you. They want you. They've signed the contract. They're not going to sign the contract for dumb. So you've done it. You just need to do your job now. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, we do like overachievers, don't we, Lovelda? We know all about overachieving.
Yeah, you know, here from Club Overachievers Anonymous, not so anonymous anymore.
High five. Nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with pushing that little bit harder and wanting to be the best that you want to be. I think it's important to understand what's driving it, and if it's being driven from needing to prove your worth versus just wanting to be the best you. It's subtle, but it's such a big distinction, you know, such a big distinction in terms of how you show up. So after working in consulting, working for others, you then took a leap and thought, I'm going to do this myself. What brought that on?
That's a good question. I look back, I'm like, how did that even happen?
Because that's not a bad job to have, girl. People be fighting for those jobs. And you were like, yeah, I think I'm ready for a change.
Yeah. It's always easier. It's so funny when we tell these stories that it always seems so much easier than it was. Although in a way, that one was an easiest decision. So I loved my time at McKinsey. But the way I describe it is it was the best 3 years of my corporate life that I would never do again because I was exhausted. I'm not even joking. Like I burnt out twice. You burn out once, dumb. You burn out twice, like what is wrong with you? Like stop doing it.
You didn't learn. You just did not learn.
I didn't learn. And I started to realize that while I loved what the firm did, I loved how much I'd learned. I loved the work I was doing. So being British Nigerian, I got the opportunity to work in Nigeria, like substantially for the first time, to work across East Africa, West Africa. It was just like the opportunities were great, worked with smart people. And I was like, I can't breathe. Like I've not had a chance to just breathe and take it all in. And Lovelda knows I love structure. I love planning.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But I did the craziest thing, but it felt so right that I'd ever done. Quit my job, not knowing what I'd do next. Like I was that tired. I was just done with it. And I was like, look, worst case, I'll find another job. Like once I got it through my head that I wouldn't be homeless and I wouldn't be broke. Because it goes, honestly, anyone who's ever thought of, not anyone, but most people who've ever thought of quitting their job and starting a business, there is that thing that goes through your mind of like, what if I'm broke? What if I'm on the streets? Like asking,
I could buy things right now and go to restaurants. Like, what if I'm just eating tinned beans and I don't even have bread to go with it? Like, it's not even toast, beans on toast. It's just beans.
Exactly. And I had to go through that process myself. And I went, you know what? If I'm eating beans for I don't know, 2 months, I could be okay with that. But I just need to stop because I'm exhausted. So I quit. I think in the back of my mind, kind of expecting that I'd go back into employment, like conventional employment. Only thing I did was book a yoga teacher training course because I love yoga. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to Vancouver for like a month and learn to be a yoga instructor. Worst case, I'll do that. And I love that. That was awesome. But through the process of just stopping, and I'd learned about this phrase. It's a Japanese phrase called Ikigai. So there's sections of Japan, I don't know if you've heard about it, where they grow up and everyone believes in this idea of your purpose in life. So it's not like this thing that you figure out when you're like 30 or 40. It's like you grow up believing that there is a specific purpose that you have in life and you lead your life in that way. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to find things that I love, the things that I'm great at, and the things that align with my values. And through just a random combination of being led by the things that I love to do, reflecting on the areas where I felt like I had the most impact with my clients. And it wasn't like giving them a PowerPoint presentation, which was fine, but it was just a PowerPoint presentation or Excel sheet. It was like, I remember once being working with a client here in Nigeria. So I'm currently in Lagos, guys, because I'm because of COVID. Can't get back to London, but it's great. I was working with a client out here in Nigeria, and I realized that whenever we had an hour meeting, I would just have to book 30 minutes before that just to listen to him and to understand what he was dealing with so he could get out of his own way to actually be able to do the work that he wanted to do. And I loved moments like that. And I got back from my yoga teacher training course. I'd already started like a few pilot clients, coaching and consulting. And I was like, you know what? I could try this. Let's see how it goes. And before I knew it, I'd incorporated my business.
Accidentally.
As
it was
you
like,
do.
I didn't set out to do this. I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I quit. And then I thought, let's see what happens. I love it because it's easy to project or assume that somebody who worked in a very corporate, very structured space, and you are a very naturally quite a structured person. That's an environment you love. Tell me how it's set up, and I'm happy to run with that. And so it's really easy to assume that somebody with that makeup would need to have a very structured plan to start a business, that you'd have sat down and thought, right, okay, what am I going to do, and done a full-blown business plan. So it's nice and exciting in some ways to almost see this juxtaposition of totally structured going, I'll trust, let's see what happens.
Yeah. And you raised such a good point, because what's interesting in life is we often put ourselves into boxes, often because the world puts us in boxes, right? So think about when you were in school. Like, you're either artistic or you're scientific. You're either outgoing or you're like quiet and shy. You're either really like physical and strong, or you're kind of nerdy and you can't really do anything. Like, box. And patterns, yes, they help us to survive as human beings, but they really, really do limit us in terms of what we can do. So to your point, if I thought to myself, no, I'm a structured person, I need everything planned out, I would have never started my business. I would never be as excited as I am to wake up every day and do what I do and to work for the people that I do and like living this life that I'm excited about. I would still be doing the things that I should do, or the things I'm expected to do, or the things that people think that I can do. So it's such an important point. So I love that mix of like, you're scientifically artistic, or you're structurally flexible. Like, I don't care.
Let's take two words we don't think go together because they're opposite ends of the spectrum, and give you both. Like, why don't you just play with that?
Right.
It's interesting because I was speaking to a client of mine the other day, and she does a lot of stuff around money management. And she's like, but I kind of just want to, I do a lot of improvisation, Lovelda, and I kind of want to bring that in. And I went, please do, because there are people who are bored of the boring, dull mindset stuff, and they want somebody who's just going to break it down and make it a little bit more fun and quirky, where they can go, oh, finally, this doesn't feel like such a heavy thing. I needed somebody to make it feel light. So I love that idea of being okay with bringing two contrasting elements of your personality to the forefront and letting them both play equally. Like, not like, oh, we have to be this way or this way. Because I think it's one thing to say the world defines me as X. It's another when you then take that on and just live into that shit. It's kind of like, listen, you can mix it up. It doesn't matter what they think. They can think what they like, but you can mix it up. Surprise people. It's more fun. It's easier to find a USB when you're doing your own thing, right?
And that's you know what? That's the key thing. You actually just reminded me of an exercise that I did early on, I think even before I started my business, where I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to mishmash things that supposedly don't go together about myself and just put it out there. So I think it was stuff like, I think I put like corporate hippie, Christian yogi, there was something else. Oh, British Nigerian, because people often think you're British or you're Nigerian. Like, so it was just like, it was just a beautiful, like, and I did it into like a word cloud, which was like, none of these words seem to match, but it's exactly who I am. That's what makes me unique.
Love it. I like that game, actually. I think it's a game people should play with themselves. Like, what are the...
Right?
Because for me, I know part of my journey was finding aspects of my personality that I thought were unprofessional. Like, you know, showing up and just wanting to be a little bit quirky sometimes, or Dancing on a stage, because I love a good boogie. It's
Oh,
just
I love
not what
that.
most people do. But, you know, if you book Lovelda to MC a gig, there will probably be some form of dancing or something like that, some weird random noise I'll make, some sort of interaction. But I can only do it my way, right? If you're wanting the
Yeah.
standard, that's not me. You know, just talking about different topics and mixing them up, taking something like speaking and then deciding, let me overlay some spirituality to that and talk about journaling and all that inside work that you have to do that also supports that. But there's something quite beautiful and, dare I say, powerful about taking those two aspects of you, especially the one you're too scared to show people, and then mixing them up, just watching people's faces, like just watching the shock as they're like, oh.
Right? And that's where the excitement is. It's so funny what we're scared of the things that literally excite people. Because you saying that, like, if I'm at an event or I'm speaking to someone and they're like, I want someone who's like exciting and who can do something quirky and different. I just think Lovelda. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the special thing about you. If we want everyone else, then we should all be like clones in the Matrix or whatever. Like, like why are we all trying
I
to
know,
do
right? It's just not as much fun either. It's like,
No.
it's funny. I remember when I first started saying to somebody, it's really easy to live a fulfilled life. Like, it's really, really simple. You just only do things that fulfill you. That's it. Just get rid of the rest of it. Stop doing the crap that isn't fulfilling, that doesn't light you up. Just stop doing it. But normally you don't, because there's a whole raft of, y'all need to go back and listen to Karen Bain's Obligation. That's all I'm going to say. Go back to, I can't even remember the number for that episode. I want to say it's like number 12 or 13, somewhere around that region. Like, back that up if that's your thing. Or listen to Amy, because she talks about this stuff too. Like, stop doing things you don't want to do. Sorry, I got on my soapbox for a minute. Anyhow, back to you.
Beautiful. And there's a quote that I often tell people and I tell my clients, and it's just, and it's, doing is work, being is effortless. We're often just doing and doing and doing, just be. You want to be fulfilled, just be yourself. Whoever you are, just be. Like, stop doing.
Stop doing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one of the things I started doing. You know, right at the beginning, you'll have noticed it because I've worked with you one day, so you'll have noticed this. At the beginning of a call, if you ask me how I'm doing, I will tell you straight blank exactly how I'm doing. So you will not have me say I'm having a great day if it's a shocking day. I can still be professional. I'll show up to the call. I will give you the value that you paid for. But if you ask me how I'm doing, I ain't going to lie to you and sugarcoat it and tell you I'm having a good day. I'm going to be like, you know what? Girl, today was tough. Let's just put a pin in it. Let's just focus on this thing. But it's those little moments in which you're not true to yourself, in which you're doing. Because for me to say that I'm feeling good when I'm not feeling good, that's not me being where I'm at right now. That's me pretending to be somewhere I'm not at. I'm not feeling good, but I'm still able to deliver because this is something that I love doing and it's fun. And once I'm in it, I can put a pause on all of the other stuff. Once I'm back out of the session or whatever, I'm like, oh crap, back to the nonsense I was dealing with before the call. So just even those little tests we can give ourselves to be like, they asked you how you were. They shouldn't have asked you that dang question if they didn't want the honest truth answer.
Yeah. I love that. And yeah, you do that, which I'm very grateful for, because then it's like, I know where Lovelda is. And sometimes it also starts conversations where I can then relate to you and go, you know what? It has been a tough week. Like, it has. Let's help each other through this. So
let's just acknowledge where we're at right now.
Just acknowledge it's okay. We're all human. Right?
Sometimes we need to remember that. But you know what? Some people are super powerful humans and some people live in a space of powerless. You, my darling, is on the spectrum of powerful. So I'm curious, because with the stuff you've done, so the show is the Women of Power podcast, as you know. But this idea of what power is for a woman is not defined. Like, it's not, you can find the word powerful and look it up in the dictionary, but what that translates to for individuals is slightly different. So I'm curious, for you, what do you define as a woman's power? What do you think makes a woman powerful?
Yeah. So I was so excited to be on the show because I think it's such an important to think about, and it's often something that we don't think about, right? The idea of power is, at least conventionally, is like physical power, which is a very masculine and manly thing. For me, it's really simple. The way I define it is a powerful woman is someone who is fearless and unafraid of being her authentic self in every single moment.
I'm having a mic drop moment if you're just listening on the podcast. It's where I roll the way back and just need to take that in. So I think I'm going to need to have some, I don't know, golden nugget signs or mic drop signs, or I'm going to need a foam microphone I can just drop, because sometimes y'all be saying things and I'm like, say that again, because it was so good. It was so good. So fearlessly, unapologetically, authentically, herself.
Themselves in every single moment. Not when she feels comfortable in front of her family and friends, but not in work. Not when, you know, she's having just a good day. To your point, right? You just gave a perfect example. Coming onto a call with clients and being honest about how you're feeling in that moment, that is fearless. That's being unafraid of judgment. That's being authentic in who you are in that moment. Like, that's powerful. We often sometimes reverse that and think that's a sign of weakness. Oh, Lovelda's weak because she's not feeling well. Yeah, we're human. We don't feel well all the time, and there are reasons why. So being able to come in that moment, in every moment, and being able to do that, and then in this moment being your excited, quirky, fun, you know, we did 4 takes at the beginning. It's awesome. And it was meant to be. Like, for me, that is power, and doing it in every single moment.
The clangor there is every single moment. People are like, yeah, I'd be authentic. And I'm like, really? In that specific moment, where was your authenticity at? So it's that stretch to kind of say, because often it's a fear, isn't it, that kind of sits underneath.
Yep.
Will they like me? Can they handle it? Is it acceptable?
Yeah.
Will I upset somebody? Will they think I'm unprofessional? I'm like, bitch, if you think I'm unprofessional, I ain't the coach for you. Bye-bye.
Right. And that's someone else's definition of unprofessional, right? Again, I've worked with you. I would not say that you're unprofessional by any means. Just because you're quirky and that is you doesn't mean that you're unprofessional. And that's the beauty of authenticity. It's you. It's unique. It's not, there's no definition of it. Like, we can take other people's definitions on ourselves, but it's powerful to live in our own definition and to define who we are authentically and fearlessly, and without any, you know, being unafraid of whatever anyone else will say.
Girl, there's a lot in that. There's a lot in that for people to just, see, there's a reason there's a couple of days between this show, because you're going to have to unpack that and just sit down with a notebook or something and start to really look at it. Because I love what you say about your own version of things, because I'll say to people, create your own version of what professional is. Like, that's your professional. Somebody else's professional looks different. You will not see me turn up in them like power suits unless I'm having a fashion moment. Like, if I'm having one of those days and I want to have a fashion moment, I've been watching a sewing program recently, and they were doing those 80 shoulder pads, you know, like the old a part of me is living for it, Yewande. I'm not going to lie. Part of me is like, I just want one of those old school power suits.
Yeah.
Just to have a little fashion moment. Not that I'm saying I'm that fashionable. I just want to have a little nod to it once, right?
It could be cute.
I think it would be
with the
cute.
right attitude, which comes from like inside. It's like,
yeah, it would be like a stage costume. Like, it would actually just be a costume for the stage. I kind of, I think I want one. I saw them. I was like, yeah, 80s power suit.
Picture when you buy it. No, honestly.
I might have to commission somebody to do one particular. You're listening in and you do, you're a sewer and you do 80s power suits. Like, please hook me up. I'll wear it on stage. We'll get a photo of that, because I am living for it right now. I just think it would be a moment. I have moments where I think I could be in fashion. I'm rubbish at that stuff, but I have moments of it. Back to playing around with all of the different elements.
I'm about to start coaching you and being like, how true is it that you're not fashionable? Who told you that lie? Own your
The
passion.
the world told me to. You know what it is? It's because I always come up with these crazy things and it just shouldn't fit in. At school, oh, we are so off piste. Anyhow, at school, I started doing it was back in the 90s, and I thought it'd be good to have my socks all the way up. So I get the knee-length socks. And that's how I used to wear my school uniform, with the knee-length socks all the bloody way up. Other people started taking it on too. So maybe I do have a little, maybe sometimes I am a bit fashion forward. Sometimes it's just a fashion disaster, but that's why I have stylists, because they can tell me when I've gone too far. It's like, but they should go to no, Lovelda, no.
Own it.
It looks good from this angle, but the camera is not going to pick up that detail. And I'm like, okay. 80s power suit though, camera picks all those details up. As far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna have to check in with my stylist and see what she'd say about that. Then I might take anyhow, enough about fashion. Enough about stuff I know nothing about. But I am going to have to bring on a fashion queen now, just so I could talk about stuff I know nothing about.
Please do.
So your definition of power is just freaking incredible. Now I would like to know how you apply that for you. So here's the mean section of the show. Everybody knows it's coming now because it's been going for a while. But the mean section of the show is when I say, listen, girl, if we were to take everything, like everything, see, now I'm having a little song moment, everything that you've done in your life and business to date, and literally boil it down to like 3 core things where you could say these things have been fundamental to my success in life and business. And they could be strategies, tools, techniques, ways of being, but there's only 3. What would your 3 things be? Let's start with number 1.
Yeah. So as a consultant, I love 3s because it just makes it so easy to remember. But when this question came up, I was like, gosh, there's so much. So the first thing that, I'll be honest, the first thing that immediately came up when I was like, what's my greatest power tool? It was, one word came up, me. And then I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds so arrogant. But let me break it down. Let me give you some context, okay? I'm so fabulous. No. And what I mean by that, when I say me, in the same way I say me, I also say that for me, I believe that your greatest power tool is yourself. And a lot of this kind of aligns with some of the stuff that we said already. If you think about, and this is my analytical mind going, right? It's like, if I think about the greatest tool, I want it to be something that's unique, something ideally is free, because I don't like paying for stuff. Something that means that you are, powerful, great, wise, something that you can use anywhere, something that you can invest in that'll help you in any single area. Literally the only thing that we have is ourselves. And yeah, me for me and for you would be yourself. And the reason why for me this is the greatest power tool is we often look, so if I were to think of, so if I said, for example, as a consultant, my greatest tool is PowerPoint. Yeah, but everyone has access to PowerPoint. And we spend so much time investing in learning other tools and then wondering, ooh, what's my USP? How can I differentiate myself? How can I do something that's really impressive? How can I do this? How can I do that? But if we spent as much time investing in ourselves and understanding ourselves in and out, understanding what we're great at, understanding what we're super passionate about, understanding our values, a lot of the questions that come up, and I'll talk about for myself, like even switching from McKinsey to my own work. The reason why it was so easy for me to go from structured to just being out there was I believed in myself, and I was led by the only unique thing that I have, which is who I am. The only thing I can control, the only thing that I can identify strengths in that no one else has access to, it's literally me. And through that journey of learning more and more about myself, it just feels like every single day as I become more of an expert on who I am, things like I'm seeing so much success in new ways, and not just success, but also fulfillment and satisfaction in that success. So I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever.
It's so powerful.
That is my power tool.
It's so powerful because often, like you said, we're looking outside of ourselves, and it's easy to kind of then go, if I get this and apply it to me, it'll work. And the way I've always worked with people is, here's the thing, you need to figure out how to work it for you. Like, I could tell you the pit holes, the potholes, the crap I did that didn't work. The system works. Now, how you work the system might be slightly different to how I work the system. How many hours you put in, what times you do it, exactly what language you use might be slightly different, because that's how you're going to get the most out of the system. But the system works. You only get to do that when you understand how you work. So you can go, yeah, let her do 50 reach outs a week. I'm a 3 reach out a week kind of queen, and that works for me, and I'm happy with it, and it works really successfully. Let her go off and do it in that way. But it's the same process. You're just working you into it. So yeah, I mean, it started a little arrogant, I'm not gonna lie. But when you explained it, when you broke it down, I was like, she's got a point there. She's got a point. I'm gonna have to take that one on too. So your first one is yourself.
Yeah.
What's your second power tool?
So the second power tool goes a little bit deeper. And this is kind of the second part of what I talked about. Actually, do you know what? I hadn't even realized. You see, I'm even structured when I don't realize it. You know, my definition of like someone who's unafraid and authentic of self, it's like, that's the self. And then in every single moment. So one of the greatest things that I learned how to do is to be present in the moment, right? So as I said, I've been doing yoga for years and years and years. So, you know, the whole mindfulness meditation thing. At first I was like, what is this silliness?
Is this thing they're talking about? Why don't you be mindful?
Why do I have to breathe? Why do I have to be present in the moment? And then when I kind of learned how relevant it was, it became almost like an exercise that I did separately. It was like, okay, now I'm doing yoga, and then now I'm doing the rest of my world. But what I realized was that when I'm able to be really present in the moment and to be myself in the moment, everything else just becomes non-important, and therefore I'm able to be as successful as I can be in that moment. And the two things, and this is kind of like the process, I guess, which is my second power tool, was learning how to accept and let go of the past and not be fearful of the future. We spend so much time beating ourselves up and judging what we've done in the past. That's not to say you don't learn from the past, but you learn from the past to affect your present, to improve your future. You don't hold on to the past. Because I would spend hours literally going over what I'd done wrong. I'm like, oh, that was a mistake. And then it'd be like an hour later, and I'm like, what? I made
Where's
no
all
progress.
this time gone?
Where's all this time gone? Or
that one moment is now 6 years later. I'm still on it.
Waste of time. Or I spent ages being worried about what was going to happen, or being fearful about what was going to happen in the future. And the biggest realization for me, and this is kind of around, there are more complex pieces around the tool, but the easiest thing that I remember is the future is not real and the past is not real. Literally the only thing that's real is this moment, right? Like what we're saying in this one moment. So especially for the future, if the future is not real, why do we spend so much time freaking out about it? It's literally like one version that we've embedded in our minds.
The interest, I love that you say that. I remember when I started doing this work, and I was actually training with somebody. It's like intuitive training. And what it meant was it was a 3-day event every month, which meant I had to leave the office early on a Friday. I'm like, how the frick am I supposed to go into work? This is for like 9 months, and explain to them once a month on a Friday, I need to be out of here by a particular time. I thought there's no chance in hell they're going to accept this at all, right? But some of the training I had was, look, you know, you go in, you set your intention, you are true in the moment. And there's just something about me that's just saying this, I'm not actually asking you a question. I'm really just telling you, because there's nothing in me. It's not optional. But I went in kind of prepared to say, I might have to leave this job if they're not going to let me do this, because I'm decided. So everything in my soul was just like, this is happening. And it was fine. They said, yeah, sure, no problem. So I said, you just put it in your diary, send me a meeting invite. And and that's no problem at all, because it basically meant I needed to leave at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because this thing started at 6 o'clock in the evening, and the travel time was just insane. So I had to leave early, and I said, it's just once a month, it's some personal development that I'm doing, but the course just has this little quirk that I need to and they're like, fine. They didn't ask me any details, because I really didn't want to tell them. It's like, I don't know how I'm gonna explain this. I really have to tell them, because they might have thought I lost my mind. But what I really got to see was often all of that, it's my South African friends say, kak, is just made up. It's just stuff that I say it wrong. They say to me, oh, Lovelda, you get it totally wrong. They're like, oh, it's so cute the way you say it. I'm like, is that not it? Apparently it's supposed to have more aggression, but I can't do it.
Really?
But it was seeing that actually, if I could just be present to have the conversation and deal with that particular moment, and not be concerned about how or where, just set an intention of where I want it to go and let it go. Because I have no control over how somebody else is going to react. I just know that's where I'm going. And right now, what seems obvious to me is to have a conversation with the person in my way. And then in that moment, I can decide what happens next, right? But I didn't go in with, okay, so I'm going to, figure out exactly how to say it. And then I'm not going to say this bit, and I'm going to do it at this particular time, because it doesn't matter. Like, kind of really doesn't matter. What people feel more, or what strikes people more, is how they feel.
Yes.
And they always have that sense of, yeah, I feel like I'm being manipulated, so it's a no.
Yeah. And you know what, that's so important. And I won't go into detail. Like, a lot of the coaching that I do is around this concept of energy leadership. And often the way people feel is based on the energy that you bring to the situation. Mm-hmm. So to your point, and it actually reminds me of a client who I worked with, who wanted to get, slightly different to you, but wanted to like switch from 5 days a week to 4 days a week, and was going through that process of, they're going to say no, they're going to say this, they're going to say whatever. If you go to a meeting believing that someone's going to say no, and you approach it with that feeling of powerlessness, they will be more likely to say no than if you go in with a sense of confidence, where it's like, I'm not really asking. It's not being arrogant, but it's like, I've assessed the situation. This is what I need. This is what will be best for both of us. The energy's different, and they can feel that, right? So it's important that you take control over whatever it is that you have control over, which is the way that you show up and the way that you act in every single moment.
And I think a way to kind of see that, because my sister's got a congenital heart condition. So I often used to say to her, look, if I go into work and you're ill and they're not letting me go, I'm just not going in the next day. It's really that simple. It's not a question. There's nothing in me. It's just, if I come into you and tell you I need to go home because my sister is unwell, and you feel a certain kind of way about it, it will be, I'm going home, here's my stuff, I won't be back tomorrow. And I think for those who have dependence of some sort, if you can get to that same energy around, if something happened to them, it's not a question, it's not a freaking conversation. And that doesn't mean you don't go in and talk about it. You don't go in and say, I'm going to leave now, and necessarily be demanding. It's not about the words, but your energy is basically, I'm leaving right now. And if you've got a problem with it, fine. But this is how it's going to happen. When your energy is in that space, I have never walked into a situation where my sister's been ill and I've said, look, my sister's not really well right now. Is it okay if I leave? Because I really need to go and help her out. I've never been in a situation where they've said otherwise. Never. Because everything about me is like, I actually don't give a crap what you have to say right now, because I'm leaving anyway. But I'm just doing you the courtesy of letting you know what's going on. These are the other things that are happening right now, and they'll normally just say, just leave it, go, just go. And in the same sort of way, because sometimes when it's something we feel like we're not deserving of, it's a little bit different. When we can relate it to an individual, we can be selfless then. Then it's like, no, it's different. No, it's not any different, darling. It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. You deserve exactly the same that you would have if a relative was unwell and you're just that person who needs to be there for them. Exactly the same. Exactly the same.
You're absolutely right. It's interesting. A question I often ask clients is, if it's sort of similar to what you said, if this was someone else that you loved and you cared about, how would your advice change as opposed to ourselves? Because sometimes it's like, we are not deserving of this. It's like, why not? And we often don't see the benefit beyond just the thing. So quick story. One thing that when I was at Morgan Stanley, when I actually started my yoga practice, I used to find that I'd come out of yoga and I would just be like on top of things. My mind would be clearer. I feel better. I feel more relaxed. I'd be able to like the afternoon was just like Yewande in the flow, just like killing it. And I knew what days my yoga sessions were on. And then there was a client, like a really important client who wanted a meeting for that time. I was like, oh shoot. I was like, oh no, I can't go for yoga. And then I was like, and I started like literally, I'm in the office like talking to myself. I'm like, but why? If this is another meeting, I would just ask for a different time. It's like, you know what, I'm gonna try it. So I sent a message going, oh, I'm really sorry, I got an appointment scheduled at that time. Can we do a different time? And he was just like, oh yeah, that's totally fine. I can do like 3 hours later. Does that work for you? I was just like, wow, like.
Yeah, why was I about to take it out because it's a yoga class? Like, it's an appointment. And if it was another client appointment, I'd have no problem with it.
Exactly. So why am I any less important than that other client? And actually going to the class meant that I was able to come back and be so focused and energized. And I was able to give my all to that client in a way that I wouldn't have been able to had I not taken care of myself. So much to talk about, Lovelda.
Just if you needed another reason, we're only on point 2. So, so the first one is you. The second one is about being fully present in the moment.
Yes.
And then your third power tool?
My third power tool is basically my tribe and the people that I connect with around me. And it's so weird saying this because I'm very introverted. And I'm one of those people who, like, especially when I started working, I hated the word networking. Even now when I say it, I have to go and speak to people, right? It's like itchy vibes. But what I realized was that 2 things. First of all, by having that mindset of networking is bad, I was missing out on so many opportunities to advance my career, opportunities to find new things that I loved, opportunities to advance my business. And then the second thing I realized was that it's not about networking with people. It's about connecting with my tribe. That was a huge reframe for me. And with that, I have found so many opportunities, both within the corporate world where I used to work as well as my business, that have gone far and beyond anything that I would imagine, including getting referrals from people who don't even know me because they know someone and trust someone who I know and I trust. Like, the chain of trust is real. So if I were to say a huge power tool for women everywhere, it's really investing in and cultivating and building your tribe, your support system, whether it's emotionally, mentally, physically, don't really care what it is, but really recognizing the importance of connecting with people who get you and who you get. It's not about being friends with everyone. It's not about trying to just get opportunities everywhere, but it's about really understanding that there are people out there who you connect with, so invest in those.
Yes, girl. Because I hear you when it comes to networking. I eventually just got Lovelda networks the way Lovelda networks. I am not the sort of person, people look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so chatty and stuff. I'm like, if you threw me in a room with 1,000 people, you would find me sat in a corner by myself, waiting until I can leave. Like, I am not
interesting.
I am for real. I am not a networker. I like to hang with people I like to hang with. Just like I like to dance to music I like to dance with. You can't just throw me in any old club. So my friends used to try this crap with me at uni. I'm like, I don't like this music, so I don't want to dance to it. Just chuck me in the club and now I'm listening to Candy Floss music. I don't dance to Candy Floss music. It's not my music. You know, with my peeps, when I'm around my peeps, I come alive. But if you throw me in a room full of people I don't know, it just, unless I'm on a stage, I don't vibe in those places. And so people, oh, you really need to network. I'm like, I don't think you understand. When I network, I go in the room, I find the other naughty little schoolgirl. We both sit at the back of the room and chat rubbish, right?
That'll be me. Come find me.
And leave with one new bestie. Like that, I am not the person that goes in, let me talk to this one. No, if I need that stuff, I send my husband in. He loves that. And I just sit at the back and I'll come back. He goes, how'd you find out all this stuff? I just need one person. just one. I was vibing with them. I don't know where it's going. It just felt good. I was just vibing with them. And I met incredible people that way. So I love the reframe around what networking looks like and how you network and how you kind of dive a little bit deeper. Girl. Okay. So we could be here for like another hour and a half.
Right.
Not that it's been an hour and a half, but we could so do another hour and a half. There'll be people who've been listening and they might have, a light bulb went off when you said it was around leadership and how not spiritual leadership. What was the words you used? And I was like, when you talked about the work that you do with leaders in terms of stepping into themselves and looking at themselves in terms of how they lead. And there'll be people who've listened and thought, the way this chick is looking at this stuff, I need a piece of Yewande in my life. How do they get hold of you?
So best ways, one, checking out my website, so www.otitoconsulting.com. An even easier way is looking at the links that you've got in your, in the
show notes.
In the show notes. So either Googling my name or just coming onto LinkedIn and connecting with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. So my name is pretty unique, which is awesome. Pretty sure there isn't another Yewande Faloyin, so just do a Google search and you'll find me.
It's all about SEO-able names, isn't it? I mean, that's going to be with my kids. I'm going to have to find an SEO-able name. It's just going to be, you need to be the only one like Tigger.
And it's so funny growing up and being like, oh, my name is so long. And now I'm like, woohoo!
The internet loves me. And did you come with freebies as well, babe?
Oh, I came with freebies. I love freebies. So I got 2 freebies.
Tell us.
One is, one really speaks to what I talked about, which is around fearless authenticity in the moment. So I've got a freebie, which is how to perform like an elite athlete in business. So the idea being, how can you kind of hone that in the moment performance so that you are powerful in every moment, which is then an extension of your life. And it's based on this concept of performance being equal to potential minus interference. So I don't like I'm not a huge fan of like lots of like text and stuff. So there's like a short video, they're like quick 2-minute exercises, but really coming out of it going, this is what I can do to be my best, authentic, unique, fearless self in every single moment and moving forward with that.
In the show notes.
In the show notes.
In the show
so
notes.
That's the first freebie. The second is a gift/offer. So some of you, I guess people who resonate with what I'm saying may have done some personality tests. I know there are often 2 groups of people who've done lots of personality tests and people who've done none.
Done none. You've either been all over it or you haven't done anything
all over or not. I like a personality test. However, I often find that it puts us into boxes, right? You're creative or you're analytical. I offer a leadership mindset test. So what it does is it basically helps you to understand the attitude and the energy that you bring into situations on a normal day and under stress. It's the beautiful thing. It's like a quick assessment. You then get like a 90-minute debrief with me, as well as helping to create a plan for how you move forward in your leadership. So I'm offering to all of your listeners and subscribers 30% off.
Get it.
So again, that'll be in the show notes.
In the show notes. Get that one. Get both of them.
Get both of them. And of course, everyone can reach out to me whenever. But it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful test, and it's really tangible in how you actually move forward. And it's not about labeling anyone because we're all unique. It's just about gaining awareness and then being more powerful in every moment.
Okay, we have discussed so much. So much. Like, I don't know how we crammed so much into like a single show. It's insane. What one thing would you love to leave our guests with today?
Oh, yeah, we've spoken about so much. I think the one thing that I would want to leave our guests with is, as much as we can look externally for like what power is, and I truly believe, if I didn't believe this, I wouldn't be doing what I do. I truly believe this, and I have seen it time and time again. The power is literally within you and within your grasp, right? It's just about being that fearless, authentic person and letting it shine through and showing it not just to yourself, but to other people without any fear. And what I found is that the more that you do that, the more it's just, it's effortless, and it's almost like a sigh of relief where you can just be yourself and be yourself all the time as opposed to doing and doing and doing. So you already have everything. I'm just here to support, but you have it already, so just use it.
Ooh. Do you know what? It's like the most powerful power tool, because you've kind of gone, you don't need to get anything. You got it. You got it already.
Yeah.
You got all of it already. It's time to really just own it, understand it. Release it. Release it. Oh, Yewande, thank you so much for joining us today. If you have not already signed up and subscribed, you've been missing out on a lot of juiciness. The show drops twice a week. You want to make sure that you sign up. There's a link right at the top of the show notes as well, if you want to get the episodes delivered directly into your inbox, just to make sure you never miss one, because I'll give you a little summary. It comes straight into your inbox on the day that it's released. Make sure that you get that done. It has been absolutely incredible, Yewande. Thank you so much for joining us. You have been listening to The Lovelda Show, Women of Power podcast. Until next time, my chicas, remember, the power is already in you. Go out there and allow it to shine. Love you.